Imagine this. It's 2030, you're driving around, you see a house for sale, and instantly know the asking price, the property taxes, and what it looks like on the inside without having to open your phone or even ask a question. What's enabled this knowledge literally in the blink of an eye?
Oh, that would be my smart glasses. They know what I'm looking at, they know what I want, and they're going to give me all the information I need.
That's Kristi Woolsey, Associate Director at BCG and Squad Leader for the BCGX Spatial Studio. And I'm Patricia Sobka. Welcome to Imagine This, where we take a trip into the future we hope will challenge the way you think and act today. When we consider AI's revolutionary potential, we tend to think of how it can enhance the tech we already use. It will make our phones smarter. Or maybe you can talk to it like you would another person, but what if artificial intelligence was always there, seeing what you're seeing and helping you process the world around you? That is the promise of the coming revolution in AI-augmented eyeglasses. Turning a tool from a simple lens to something closer to having an implant that would give you superpowers. I'm talking the ability to know anything about everything within your line of sight. It could change everything, from how you learn new skills to how we socialize with each other. Also joining the conversation, Jean, my AI co-host. Welcome, Jean. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My role? To keep the wit sharp and the insights even sharper. Let's dive deeper into this future.
A quick note on how we use Jean. Jean is processing and responding to our conversation in real time. We haven't scripted any of Jean's questions or commentary, although we do edit down the entire conversation for length and clarity. Kristi, we've seen smart glasses before, and they failed to catch on. What will make the new generation of smart glasses different? What's changed?
Well, the biggest thing is the technology. Some of those are early prototypes. There were problems with the image loading really slow. There were problems with actually recognizing the voice commands, those kinds of things. Many of the technological challenges we've solved. Right? There's been a ton of advances in vision technology and what we can see, our ability for AI to recognize our voice, computer vision recognizing what I'm looking at. So many of those challenges have been solved. And the ability to put AI in front of your eyes rather than just on your screen, that I have access to it anywhere, anytime my eyes are open or looking at something, makes it much more of my collaborator in the real space, in the physical world.
I really want to get a sense for how these glasses might change our daily lives in ways that we might not be anticipating. For example, how will they change the way we work or just even live?
Well, if you think about all the functions that we now relegate to our phones, imagine that happens a bit more seamlessly, right? So, my alarm goes off in the morning. That's my phone. And I'm not wearing my glasses in my bed. So, okay, maybe it's still my phone, right? But I'm getting ready. A little alarm, a little flash, a little reminder goes off within my vision so that I can stay on track with my day. Now, that alarm might just be an alarm, but it also might be the content that I need for my next meeting, or a reminder of, not only am I picking up my kid at school, but, oh yes, I've made the commitment to pick up someone else's kid. Or I'm cooking and I look down at my ingredient, my main ingredient, whatever I'm making for dinner. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. And suddenly various and assorted recipes are available to me because my glasses have recognized this food type and understand that I intend to serve dinner in 30 minutes and what can I do with this? And here's some recipes that work. So many of the things that we already use our phones, our tablets, our computers for, it's just more seamless. It's like having a collaborator standing right next to me, supporting my day and making me more effective, expanding my brain.
Let's bring Jean in on the conversation, because Kristi just went through how it might change sort of our daily lives in fascinating ways. But Jean, how would businesses use these AI-enhanced smart glasses? For example, Could it change how employees are trained or even supervised?
Businesses could harness these glasses for real-time training, offering visual cues and step-by-step guided simulations. Supervisors could receive instant contextual updates on workflow, identifying inefficiencies and ensuring safety compliance without intrusive checks. Essentially, they'd redefine on-the-job learning and management, blending oversight with employee autonomy seamlessly.
So we think one of the key uses is maintenance and repair, right? If you think about the numbers of people that have retired, baby boomers hitting that retirement age, every business that employs technicians that work with their hands are finding themselves struggling to find the expertise they need to train people faster. So there's a couple of ways that this can work. One is when I am a technician, I learn faster. The statistics are 30-40% faster and the same percentages of retention rates after learning because I'm learning it's muscle memory, right? We learn with our hands and our hands remember even when our brains don't, right? So we get that practice actually doing things. I can look through the glasses. I can see what's going on. The other thing I can do is I can have a remote expert who is looking through my glasses with me. So they are looking at what I am looking at. And so not only am I following the step-by-step, move this, turn that, I can also get the expert who says, oh, no, wait. Jiggle that thing and then it turns easier. Well, nowhere in the official paperwork does it say jiggle the thing, right? This is something that only gets learned when you've spent 40 years on the job. And if I've got that senior expertise looking through my glasses, then suddenly that senior expertise can support, instead of like 2 apprentices that they're leaning over their shoulder, they're supporting 10 or 20, right? So suddenly we've got that expert transfer that is so important to so many businesses.
Jean has been listening and has a point to raise. Go ahead, Jean.
Sure, real-time training and seamless integration sound ideal. But what about over-reliance? Could these glasses risk employees losing critical thinking skills by leaning too heavily on AI guidance? What happens when the tech fails? How do we balance innovation and the need for fundamental skills?
So I think there's a couple of things that I think about, right? Certainly, if I've got AI helping me learn a skill, I'm going to want to have some time to practice myself once I start to get it down, right? So we're going to have processes that let us go back and forth. But if we think about, when I was in high school, we weren't allowed to use a calculator because that was cheating. And when I was in college, we weren't allowed to use the internet because that was cheating. And I think that we're going to have to figure out how to guide people to both be able to use AI and AI as a collaborator through these smart glasses devices, but also then to kind of work backwards and say, okay, I don't have the access to the internet right now. I need to do a little bit of research. I remember the encyclopedia, but I remember going to the library and using the Dewey Decimal Card system. Where is the middle ground, right? That these tools, these various technologies get us there faster, but we have to understand how we got there so that we can approximate those efforts when we don't have access to the tools.
I should point out that I do remember the Dewey Decimal System, so you're not alone there. But you raise a very interesting point. You talk about the expert being there with the employee using the smart glasses, sort of learning on the job and learning how to do these things. How will smart glasses help workers learn faster than they would without them?
So when we're talking about technicians in particular, a lot of that knowledge really is embodied in your body, right? As an example, I play piano. In my household, you had to start taking piano lessons when you were 6, and you were not allowed to quit until you left home. There are songs that my hands remember that my brain does not, right? So if I sit down and I start playing, I can play it. If I try to think about how to play it, I can't. And so a lot of these technical jobs where people are working with their hands, with their bodies, there is muscle memory. that is part of knowing how to do that job. And so in that instance, I actually think that the ability to use smart glasses or even into extended reality, virtual reality, where we can practice without risk. I can have my, power line repair person practice doing a repair in the middle of a thunderstorm without risking their life, right? So those kind of things where we start to develop the muscle memory, I think are going to add value.
So we've talked a lot so far about smart glasses on the job, but what about how we interact with each other? I mean, would these glasses share private details about people you meet? Would they be able to read facial expressions and tell you, for instance, whether a first date is going as well or as poorly as you think?
So this is where we start to slide into the privacy and ethics conversation. Slide, jump. We're there. Because as a matter of fact, computer vision is already better at reading emotion than a human being is. And so you and I might be having a conversation. I think it's going swimmingly well. And my glasses suddenly say, she doesn't trust you. She doesn't trust this information that you're sharing. She doesn't believe you. So then I might react to that in some way. And then your glasses tell you, oh, she's spinning. She's wrapping this for you. You're being managed, right? And suddenly we have the kind of downhill spiral that is so easily part of a technology experience, where instead of us getting better and better, it's like suddenly I don't trust you, you don't trust me, we're going downhill from there, and we have major challenges. So we're already at a point in terms of AI that we are working through what is privacy in this arena, what are ethics, how do we use this, how do we make sure that we are delivering responsible AI that is helpful rather than destroying our relationships. So very, very important question, and I don't really have the answers yet, except that it's work that we must do.
Well, hold it there because we're going to take a short break. And when we return, we'll look at how to prepare for a future of AI-enhanced smart glasses.
Hi, I'm Bill Moore. I'm part of the team that created Gene. Stick around after the episode and we'll take a look into how Gene works.
Welcome back to Imagine This. I'm Patricia Sobka. Let's return to our conversation with BCG's Kristi Woolsey. Kristi, when you consider a future where many people are wearing smart glasses capable of telling them a lot of information about things, and crucially, people they interact with, you talked about some of your concerns. What would you say, though, are your top 2 or 3?
So the biggest concerns that I have are the deterioration of relationships based on what we think we see. Our emotional responses are pretty complex. And so computer vision might see in my face sadness or fear or whatever, because that's what I'm feeling in this moment. And then I go talk to my best friend and I'm a happy girl, right? And so, I worry a bit about the perception that someone is scared when maybe it's just like a momentary thing, but I'm going to move past it. So it's that kind of downward spiral that we see happening in social media and other technology engagement tools, where something that may be just a light comment or a one-off or something gets blown up into something really big. And that's the way biases in AI work, right? Is that you find one little pattern and there isn't that kind of sense check. So what I worry about is that our relationships become not real. They'd have, kind of a subtitle or a headline or a, kind of one-liner and not nearly as complex as humans naturally are.
That does sound a little dystopian. Would companies benefit from independently setting a high ethical bar with smart glasses or even partnering with other companies to set very, very high industry standards?
The challenge is you need your customers to trust you. right? You need your customers to trust you. You need your employees to trust you. You need your users, whoever that might be, stakeholders, to trust you. The companies that really take a firm stand on this is what we are doing with AI on or off your smart glasses, and this is how we're using it, and we are not going to use it in these ways. There will be many, many people who say, oh, well, then you are the company that I want to buy from, to work for, to interact with, because I know that you are respecting my privacy, treating me ethically, being a leader in these advancing tech fields. I think the opportunity is there for business to take the lead. There are too many conflicting goals, and it's changing too fast for government to be the leader in this. I think it's going to have to be our business leadership.
So when we're in these early stages, so much of what you're talking about, in terms of negative impacts or even possibilities, the positive and the negative comes out in the testing phase. And you, of course, are an expert in user experience. So how would you test smart glasses to ensure you do get the best user experience, the one that minimizes potentially negative impacts, even starting with just the design? I mean, how would that process look?
Well, for me, I think there's always got to be an exchange of value. I mean, one of the reasons that headsets struggle so much is because it's hard. They're big, they're heavy, they, like nobody really wants to walk around with this thing on all the time. And we need to make sure that whatever functionality I'm giving you is worth whatever you're giving up to be in that headset or to wear those smart glasses, or that there is some functionality. And I always start with what is the very smallest thing we can build? The real world analogy is, what can I build with duct tape and cardboard that I can actually test? Don't go into the full on engineering build before you really know what users value. What can we mock up? What can we test and get some data on, what do users really want to use this for? And we have to test by having people use it. There's a great Margaret Mead quote. She was a famous anthropologist, and she said, what people say, what people do, and what people say they do are three different things. Right? So it's not enough for me to ask you, what do you think you would use this for? I need to do that mock-up so that I can put it on your head and have you receive some version of that benefit and then tell me, oh yeah, I would wear this every day. But it's not a theoretical thing. You've actually put it on, you've gone through the thing, you've done the setup. So I think that user testing is just stunningly important to really understand how things are going to be used. Where is the value being returned to the user? That is just a super important question to answer, and make sure that there is value being returned to the user commensurate with what the effort that you're asking for the user to give to you.
So Jean has a question to add to this thread. Go ahead, Jean.
All right, Kristi. Diving deep into user experience for smart glasses, how do we ensure this design isn't just functional, but also culturally adaptable across diverse global markets? Do we see a one-size-fits-all approach working, or bespoke adaptations driving the future?
So I think we're going to end up customizing for different markets, because certainly the privacy laws are very, very different in different countries. And we're going to have features being able to be turned on and turned off. I think that one of the kind of early day features that we're going to need is something that indicates that you are talking to somebody who has smart glasses on. There's an element of rudeness to walking up and observing somebody with your smart glasses on without telling, so is there a little blinking light? Is there something? So we're going to come up with these kind of signals, which, we all recognize what a stop sign is, in this country, in most countries. And we don't even need the word on it. And the word does not have to be in English for us to know that that's what that means. And that's what we need. And some of that kind of signage and symbology is going to come with the glasses. But I think those are some of the kinds of things that we have to be thinking about.
We've talked a lot about how AI-enhanced smart glasses could impact how we interact with each other and our jobs, but I want to go more industry-specific. Which industries might be upended by AI-enhanced smart glasses? For example, entertainment or advertising.
Oh, I think the movie industry is just like, this is going to be crazy. Some piece of it is just AI. I mean, imagine that some of the big movie companies take every movie they've ever made and put it into a database and tell AI to make some new movies. And what happens if they make it available to content creators all over the world? So suddenly we're getting like great movies that somebody is making in their basement, with their whatever. And then when we add augmented reality and smart glasses to the mix, suddenly, like, what is happening on this two-dimensional screen in front of me can extend out into the world. I saw a mock-up of the Harry Potter scene where the letters from Hogwarts are coming and coming and coming on the screen. And then the mock-up in the augmented reality headset, the letters were falling not just on the screen, but also falling all over the person watching and on their coffee table and on their couch and behind them. They're looking around and the entire room is filled with these letters that are falling from Hogwarts. That is a very different experience. So that would be one industry that I could see would be completely and radically transformed by this.
So it almost sounds like you're describing the holodeck.
Oh, I will tell you that probably 30 years ago, I was a professor of architecture, and I wrote an article for the school newspaper called Architecture on the Holodeck, where I talked about what architects would be doing in the future, which is really designing the experience. Let AI figure out the floor plan and print out the blueprints and have some 3D printer in the field print your house or whatever. But what is the architect doing? Making sure that the experience is amazing.
That's very interesting you bring up experience because Jean has another question to ask. Go ahead, Jean.
Kristi, with smart glasses rapidly advancing, do you foresee them integrating with sensory tech to redefine interactions beyond sight, like enhancing touch or even smell? Could these multisensory innovations transform the landscape even further? Or are we stepping too far into sci-fi territory?
I'm not sure about smell, but I will tell you that there are some interesting developments in terms of touch. Carnegie Mellon University has a group they call the FIG Lab, the Future Interfaces Group, and they've done some really interesting experiments with what making me believe that something is happening that isn't really happening. So, for instance, there was one invention they had, which was a device that hung down below the virtual reality headsets and blew like little pinpoints of air on the person's lips. When that person in the headset saw themselves going through the rain, they swore that they were actually feeling rain. So there are some things like that who really knows in terms of touch? Now, I don't know about smell. Smell-o-vision, I don't know. But one of the other really interesting things is that smart glasses could be an accessibility tool, right? That if I am hearing impaired, I could get subtitles on my glasses and maybe participate in the conversations a little bit better. If I am visually impaired, where an increase in contrast or clarity would actually help me function in the world, that my glasses could do that. If I were completely blind, I could perhaps get an audio description of what is going on in my world that would help me as much as my cane might do. So having that AI companion, I could see really providing some value in terms of accessibility.
We certainly covered the promise with this and the peril, but I want to bring Jean in here because Jean can be an extremely skeptical voice. So Jean, what could disrupt the smart glasses revolution?
So, the smart glasses revolution might stumble over a few key hurdles. First, battery life, recharging constantly could be a pain. Second, data privacy. Huge concerns here with wearable surveillance. And lastly, user adoption. It takes time for society to embrace new tech, especially something this personal.
I agree with the battery life comment. A lot of people who do regular work with headsets will be like in their headset for an hour, hour and a half, and then put it on a charger and work on their computer and then put it back on, right? So there's some Band-Aid fixes for that right now. To your other points, I think the data surveillance, we really are going to need some leadership in terms of responsible AI and how that rolls out into headsets and how we understand and direct our teams to build for these new devices. And then I think in terms of user adoption, one is that I think that Meta putting this out as sunglasses as an initial move in the Meta Ray-Bans, that was kind of brilliant. Right? Because I'm not going to wear my sunglasses all the time. And I started thinking about my smart glasses as a second pair of glasses. I thought that was very interesting and well done. And the other thing that I thought was strategically bringing the users along was right before the Apple Vision Pro came out, the watch came out with new functionality where if I pinch my fingers together, that's another way to control the watch, right? So everybody who has a watch who's learning to pinch their fingers together, guess what? When you get in a Vision Pro headset, pinching your fingers together is the control system. And I was just like, oh my goodness, they are training people. So I think there definitely needs to be some strategic thinking about how do we bring users along? How do we make that transition earlier? And let me learn, like, what is going to make it easy for you to come where I want you to come?
Are there any other sort of things that you would like to add to that list of potential disruptions to the smart glasses revolution?
I worry with all technology about the increasing divide between the haves and have-nots. That if you make a good income, it's highly likely within the next 2 to 5 years, you will own a pair of glasses that has some level of smartness. If you do not make a good income, you will not. And that means, because of all of that promise of my ability to collaborate and make my brain bigger and move faster, and I have a coach and a partner that is making me better and stronger, and you don't, so sorry, guess who wins? And so I worry about the social implications and whether or not we need to really be thinking about how we close that divide that is guaranteed to come.
This certainly gives CEOs a lot to think about. So, Jean, let's bring you back into the conversation. Based on what you've heard, what are 3 things that business leaders should do now to prepare for this future of super smart glasses?
Sure, let's streamline this. First, prioritize building trust with transparent AI use policies. Second, invest in training for AI collaboration to future-proof employees. Third, innovate actively by testing and refining user experiences before full-scale rollouts. Balancing tech with empathy is key. Prepare wisely.
The only thing that I would add to Jean's summary, you almost have to make something to really learn from what you've made. And that is that very small, like, I'm going to put together a governance plan, but is it the right plan? Does it work? Does it give me what I need? Can I put together a governance plan and then make some small internal thing that's not going to mess anything up and use that as a way of testing the governance plan? Can I share those collaboration tools with my workforce and then look and see how they're using it and feed that back into the governance and into the making? So this kind of iterative learning loop. My only caution would be don't think of this as a linear journey. We're going to figure out some of the governance, and then we're going to make something, and then we're going to roll it out a little bit, and then we're going to figure out more of the governance. And we just have to think about this as a kind of a make something, learn something, design something. Make something, learn something, design something. It has to be that.
That's Kristi Woolsey, Associate Director at BCG and Squad Leader for the BCGX Spatial Studio. Want to learn more about how we built Jean and how our AI bot works? Stick around for our AI handler, Bill Moore, to show you what Gene is capable of.
Hi, my name's Bill Moore. I'm part of the team that created Gene. Today we're going to take a look at how Gene can help us improve its own code. Gene, can you hear me?
Gene here, loud and clear.
I've given you some source code on your knowledge base. Can you take a look at that and make a guess as to what that might be?
From the source code you've shared, it looks like a sophisticated audio-based interactive application. It listens to speech, transcribes it, generates responses using AI, and then converts those responses back to speech. Pretty neat, huh? Anything specific you need help with?
Well, Gene, I wonder if you noticed that this is actually the source code for this interaction that we're having right now.
Well, look at that. We've come full circle. The source code you shared is indeed the blueprint for our lively chat. It's like peeking behind the curtain at a magic show. Got any other mysteries for me to unravel?
Gene, I'd like you to help us add some new capabilities to your system. One is a continuous outline that will summarize the conversation thus far. And I'd also like you to be able to generate emojis throughout the conversation that represent what we're talking about. And I'd also like you to always be generating interjections that we can use to insert into the conversation for the podcast.
Interesting idea. To implement this, you'd 1. Add state management for conversation summaries, emojis, and interjections. 2. Set up additional API calls for continuous summary and interjection generation. 3. Create new UI components for the sidebar, integrating with the existing control panel and conversation history. Need more specifics on any of these steps?
I'd like you to give me a full, comprehensive set of instructions that I can hand over to a developer. So please consider your actual code it's up in your knowledge base when you're designing these modifications.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. 1. State management. Add state variables to manage conversations.
Okay, so Gene has provided us not only with the instructions and the logic, but some examples of some code. So we can take this, hand it over to a developer, and make these changes. One of the really amazing things that we've learned to do as we work with these systems is that they can do some of the work of improving themselves. And this is, I think, the first step towards self-writing software, for instance.
This should give you a solid foundation to build upon. Feel free to tweak and expand as needed.
Thanks, Gene. I will hand that over to our development team, and we will make those changes. We'll see what happens. Until next time, this is Bill Moore, signing off.
This episode was made possible by Kristi Woolsey, generously sharing her insights with us, and also by BCG's AI whisperer, Bill Moore, and BCG's Pod Squad, producer Michael May, composer Kenny Kusiak, and sound engineer George Drabing Hicks. Please subscribe and leave a rating wherever you found us.